Welcome to biology class. Now, if somebody said those words to me, I would want to take off running. All right, so we're going to accomplish two things in this biology class. Number one, we're going to make it as fast as possible. Number two, I'm not going to be that boring, put you to sleep professor. I'm going to hopefully bring some energy and only hit you with the three most important things you must understand, biologically speaking, about how the brain works if you're going to develop the mental toughness you're looking for. First thing I want you to know, biologically speaking, PCT, problem-centric thinking. It is the number one biggest obstacle to mental toughness. Here's your definition. The biological tendency to focus on the negative. I want you to know this. Every one of us, all of us, biologically speaking, we're all born with this PCT tendency. Hundreds of years ago, it was essential for us to have this so that we could advance our species. We needed to, hundreds of years ago, always, biologically speaking, be concerned about the threats that were out there. Having that PCT tendency oftentimes kept us alive, kept us out of the lion's den, if you will. These days that we live in safer times, PCT is actually now extremely counterproductive for our health, our happiness, and our success. Here's my favorite statistic about people with mental toughness. And again, mental toughness is the opposite of PCT. People with mental toughness live up to 14 years longer than normal people. 14 years. And in those 14 years, they're going to have a measurable and significant increase in health, happiness, and success. Now, you might think, how in the heck could a person's thoughts have that big of an impact on 14 years of extra life and then all those things you're promising about health, happiness, and success? I want you to understand. Think about it like this. Bring my prop in. Your brain, this is a mental chalkboard, and this is PCT, living on the problem side of life. It's totally normal, but we can learn to live on the other side, across the line. I want you to understand, every time you have one of those PCT thoughts, and a person has, on average, 25,000 PCT thoughts a day. And the vast majority of those PCT thoughts, those are negativity and problems that are never, ever going to even happen. Most people, again, 25,000 PCT thoughts a day, and every PCT thought pushes a neurotransmitter called cortisol into the bloodstream. Cortisol does two things for us. Makes us feel stress, actually all negative emotion, stress, anxiety, fear, anger, depression, and guilt. Makes us feel stress and makes us stupid. When cortisol goes into the bloodstream, we feel the negative emotion, and then it punctuates the beginning of fight or flight in our brains. Fight or flight, all that means is the brain disables itself for detailed thinking. You become stupid. All right, now, if we can learn, which we know with training, we can learn to live over on this side of the board. Our brain stops releasing the cortisol, which is the toxin, and begins releasing other neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters over here are healthy. They make us feel good. Dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, epinephrine. They make us feel things like pride, happiness, contentment, joy, satisfaction, and they actually enhance our cognitive ability. First thing I need you to understand, and we're going to come back to this concept a lot over the next few months of training, is PCT. We must learn to get rid of PCT, which we know exactly what to do to make that happen. Second component I need you to know about is something called expectancy theory. Here's your definition. That which you focus on expands. Human beings are made up of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. We know this. that the thoughts we have, the thoughts we choose to have, control the way we feel and the way we behave. If we can get control of our thoughts, which that's what all mental toughness and mental training is about, identifying the healthy thoughts and then making it so that those thoughts are likely to occur. If we can control the thoughts with training, we know we can, we now control for the success of the entire organism. We will have success with the way we feel and the way we behave. Expectancy theory. Concept number 3. Your mind, the human mind, can only fully focus on one thing at a time. All right, now I want you to understand, and I know there's been all this discussion about multitasking. Here's what I want you to know. Multitasking, scientifically speaking, is counterproductive. I know several years ago there was this push for people to learn to multitask. That push is no longer relevant. We know science has told us multitasking is a very bad thing. We can only fully focus on one thing at a time. So if you're trying to multitask, you cannot be fully focused on any one thing. That's bad for performance. All right, now the other part I want you to realize with this concept of your mind can only fully focus on one thing at a time is if you're focused on a problem, you cannot be focused on a solution. If you're focused on what you cannot control in life, you cannot in that moment be focused on what you can control. If you're focused on the excuse, you cannot be focused on making the change necessary for improvement. Your mind can only fully focus on one thing at a time. Biology class is over. Those are the 3 components, and we'll come back to these over the next few months of training. All right, now I'm going to ask for you to, of the 3, identify which one for you is most important, which one resonates most. And now I'm going to ask you to take that one thing and teach that one of the 3, either PCT, expectancy theory, or the mind can only fully focus on one thing at a time, to one person you care about. Let me explain why I'm asking you to teach. Here's what we know about learning retention. There are 4 rungs on the ladder. The lowest rung is something called didactic instruction. It's exactly what's happening here. It's the preferred method of education in North America. Unfortunately, it's extremely ineffective. Teacher stands in front of the class tries to absorb the information. Didactic instruction, only 10% of the information is retained. All right, now when you add note-taking, we move, that's the second rung on the ladder, all the way up to a whopping 20%. Still terrible retention. Now when we go to the third rung of the ladder, something called experiential exercise. In the sports world, they're great at this. Coach teaches the athlete and then athlete does it, puts energy into performing. When you do experiential exercise with learning, it moves all the way up to 60% retention. The highest rung on the ladder, teaching. When the student becomes the teacher, you will retain 80% of the information. These 3 components, again, we're going to go over them at periodic times over the next few months of your training, but I want you to get a head start by picking one of the 3 and then teaching one person you care about that one component. Please take a moment right now and identify which one of those 3 components you want to teach. Excellent. Biology class dismissed. Thanks for being here. Go get them out there.